Hey everybody, welcome back to this COVID Connect series on the Kings of Israel. Today is a really big day because we're going to focus on King David, who was the second and by far the best king of Israel, and also hands down one of the most important figures in the entire Bible. As we talked about yesterday, God handpicked David to be King Saul's successor. But as you also might remember, at the moment Saul died, the kingdom of Israel was under assault from the Philistines, their enemies. So as soon as David became king, he fought back and managed to drive the Philistines out and rescue the entire kingdom of Israel. There was also a civil war going on where some of the tribes of Israel were battling other tribes. So David quelled that civil war too. In fact, he was so successful in uniting all of the 12 tribes of Israel together that they all gathered together in a big ceremony to anoint him king. After that, David then established Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, because it laid in kind of a neutral territory between multiple tribes. After settling in Jerusalem, David's next act was to bring the Ark of the Covenant up to the capital. If you don't know what this is, the Ark of the Covenant was a big ceremonial box where the Israelites put the two big stone tablets of the Ten Commandments that God had directly given to Moses. The Israelites considered this box to be incredibly holy and sacred. They thought of it as like God's presence itself. They treated the Ark of the Covenant with the kind of reverence that we Catholics might treat a consecrated host. The Ark had been held captive by the Philistines for several years, so to bring it back to the capital was a really huge deal. And David led this enormous procession, and he was so overjoyed with love for God that he even started dancing and singing in front of the Ark. So David was a really holy, a really pious king. But like Saul and like other kings after him, he also had moments of sin. Probably the most famous instance of this is when David committed adultery with a woman named Bathsheba. After that, David arranged to have Bathsheba's husband killed. This was a really terrible sin, and it's one that had consequences. For example, a few years after that, one of David's sons, Absalom, started a rebellion against David and tried to kick David off the throne. The most important part of the story is that when God rebuked David, David repented. He turned back to God and asked for forgiveness from his terrible sin. And we know this because David's prayer for repentance is actually recorded in the Bible as Psalm 51, where David says, "Have mercy on me, God, in your goodness. In your abundant compassion, blot out my offense." So David was flawed. He was sinful, like Saul and like other kings after him. But unlike those kings, David turned back and tried to do God's will even after he had sinned. Throughout the Bible, God refers to David as a man after my own heart, for that reason, because David ultimately put God above everything else. That's why David was Israel's greatest king, and that's why God promised David that he would make David's kingdom eternal, and that David's successors would rule forever. And as we know, that prophecy was fulfilled in one of David's descendants, Jesus Christ.